it with me. So before I start, I have to make a disclaimer that I believe that we have forgotten the true legacy and lessons of our native elders in our native communities. Therefore, some of my reflections today are based on looking back in order to move forward. And I do this with tremendous honor and respect, even though I'm going to be quoting some of the beliefs and truly wonderful suggestions that our elders made in different communities of color. And even though I'm not from those communities, I just want to say that I'm doing it with honor and respect. It is 2030, and based on our February 5th, 2011 baseline rates, we have achieved a 90% reduction in child maltreatment and intimate partner violence exposure in Eugene, Springfield. Yay for us. I'm 65 years old. And my beautiful daughters back in 2011 were 18 and 11, now in their 40s and their 30s. Hopefully I'm a grandmother. And our children and communities were in crisis. Before I start, I would like to tell you a story, and I would like for all of you to participate. Many of you might not remember how we all started back in 2011, how we started shifting our community norms, perceptions, beliefs, irrational beliefs and rational beliefs in relation to our children and the topic that brings us here today. But one of the fundamental core beliefs that we had to transform within ourselves is then ignite the transformation of community norm beliefs, is that all our children belong to us. So we started shifting how our community greeted each other. And we went back to one of the most accomplished and fabled tribes of Africa. None is considered to have warriors more fearsome or more intelligent than the mighty Maasai. It is perhaps surprising then to learn that traditional greetings that passes between Maasai warriors was Kaserian Injera, means, and how are our children? This greeting acknowledges the high value that the Maasai places in their children's well-being. Even warriors with no children of their own give the customary answer, all the children are well. This response implies that peace and safety prevail, that children are our priority. It also says that the Maasai people have not forgotten the reason for being and responsibilities. The response, all the children are well, suggests that life is good and that daily struggles of existence do not preclude caring for the young. So we in Eugene, Springfield took this core greeting, and that is why today you all say it and you all hear it. But I would like for us to practice it. So please listen to the instructions first, and you can do it. Please stand up, take the hands of your partner, and look into each other's eyes. And select the partner that's going to ask the question and the person that's going to reply back. And please listen to my instructions, so if you can do that now. Stand up, take each other's hands, find a partner. In silence, please. In silence. In silence. Thank you. Look at each other's eyes. And when I count to 3, please ask the question, how are our children? 1, 2, 3. Ask it to your partner. So I want to do a time shift. We're not in 2030. We're in 2011. And the respondent, as I count to 3, please respond briefly in your perspective, in your shoes, in the skin that you're in. How are our children? Respond back, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. If you silence again, no, don't sit down yet. So if you were asking me that question in 2011, in the skin that I'm in the shoes that I have, in the things that I see in my community, how are our children? I would tell you that our children are in crisis and they're dying. So I want you to move forward to 2011 and do the same thing. Ask by the count of 3, how are our children? And then on the count of 3, respond back, all our children are well. So we're back in 1930, and this is how we're greeting each other as a community. 1, 2, 3. How are our children? Okay, thank you. Sit down. So as we did this, I want you to hold core the dichotomy that probably many of you were placed in emotionally as we look at 2011 in the skin that you're in, the shoes that you're in, and what you do. How are our children and how you responded. And now in 2030, when we say, how are our children, and honestly saying all our children are well, and how that felt for you. So back to 1930. Our goal back then was 90% by the year 2030. What did that mean for our community to start first believing that we could? How did we start deconstructing our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions about how to take care of our children in our community holistically and at all levels? We had to embrace with courage our inability to look within ourselves and reflect back our most hidden beliefs, shame, blame, and judgment that we placed on each other and those families, suggesting somehow that they deserved what was happening. The academia focused back then on child maltreatment, suggesting that it was 4 main categories of childhood victimization that were physically, sexually, emotionally, and neglect. And we know that historically it started in the 1960s where we focused on the physical abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse. And we totally did not talk about the emotional, mental, spiritual impact of the abuse and how to deconstruct it and hold it in its nurturing place. And here is the core of transformation that we started to engage each other as a community in engaging in courageous listening that led for us to have courageous conversations and that we were able to take courageous actions necessary to achieve the goal that we are celebrating today. What were these courageous actions? First, we challenged our educators, elected officials, and members of our business and faith communities to make our children our priority in our community. And everyone started asking themselves, how are our children? And they vowed to continue to ensure their commitment until they could honestly answer, all our children are well. Second, we collectively as a community redefined what child abuse was and that we had to create holistic approaches of healing for the child and for the adults in our community. We prioritized programs that could create spaces of healing the inner child of every adult in our community that was willing to go to the deepest places within themselves and hold that inner child with tender, loving care. This was a key element that we were leaving out in order to heal the toxic stress that the adults carried and was being manifested on their children, therefore creating cycles of hurt. 3, the community was clear that we needed to do a multiple-pronged approach that consisted of creating strategies that were holistic by taking in consideration the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health of the individual and that relationship. And 4th, and we also were in attunement to the community, that it is a living, thriving entity that also has a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical needs that we needed to take into consideration in order to accomplish our goals. 5, the University of Oregon had to deconstruct its own paradigm of teaching, and with community created a framework of skills that all students needed to have as they graduated, that they could be part of the solution, getting out of the academia in their heads and going back to their hearts where the real answers lie. And in order to accomplish all the above, we went back to our native roots and structured our community collective framework by following the fundamental values and principles of Kwanzaa, which are not only the building blocks for community, but serve also as its social glue, which are unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and world. Self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create and speak for ourselves, instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by others. Collective work and responsibility, to build and maintain our community together and make our sisters and brothers' problems our problems and to solve them together. Cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. Purpose, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to our traditional greatness. Creativity, to always do as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Faith, to believe with all our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. So my last question to all of you, it is 2030, and I have to ask you, how are our children? All our children are well. And with that, I leave you to hold it in the core of what can we do as a community and transform our community norm. And we have a lot of work to do. Racism, discrimination, prejudice is prevailing and surfacing in our community. We have to face it. We have to face the people that look like me are not safe in this community. We have to face that our children are dying in our schools. We have to face that where we need to make our most investments, we do not as a community. And that reflects directly on us because we're making these choices. The last thing that I have to say is that our superintendent has a student advisory committee. And one of the, as we are looking at the cuts and blah, 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 as you all know, read the newspaper, RG, and some of them are personally impacted by this. Adults were saying in the room, you are our future. You are our future. These are, 15, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old students. And the student raised his hand and said, we are not your future. We are your present. And what are you doing for us today? And as I see this room, our future is kind of over. Really? We are leaving our present right now? And how do we take the responsibility of creating this present for our children? So, thank you.